Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's GTNews webinar entitled, What Are Over 1,000 Corporates Doing Over SWIFT? My name is Trika Adams, and I will be your host for today. During this webinar, Viacom will highlight how they're using SWIFT to gain efficiencies in treasury. We will also cover an update on the SWIFT for Corporates program, including key initiatives for corporate treasurers, such as SWIFT's cloud-based connectivity, reference data, and authentication. Our speakers today will be Brian Harrison, International Treasury Manager at Viacom, Matteo Monaco, Head of Corporate Sales at SWIFT, and Stacy Rosenthal, Banking and Corporate Initiatives at SWIFT. Before our speakers begin, there are a few housekeeping points. If you have a question for the speakers, please type it into the box on the bottom right corner of your screen. We will try to use these questions during the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. Please ensure to send your question to all panelists. Otherwise, we may not be able to read it out loud. Additionally, this entire webinar is being recorded, so if you miss anything or think a colleague would be interested, you will be sent a link to access the recording in the next few days. I'd now like to hand over the presentation to our first speaker for today, Mr. Brian Harrison. Thank you for joining us, Brian.
Hi, Tarika. It's Stacy Rosenthal from SWIFT. Actually, the SWIFT team is going to be starting off, and then we're going to be turning it over to Brian to share his case study. Thank you so much to GTNews for their partnership today on the webinar, and to Brian and the Viacom team for their support to share their case study. For just a few moments to cover the agenda and what we're going to be covering today on this webinar. For those of you that may not be familiar with SWIFT, we're going to be providing a background on the organization, an update on the SWIFT for Corporate portfolio and how we've expanded beyond messaging and connectivity to offer value-added services. Brian will be sharing the Viacom case study with you, why they joined SWIFT, the benefits that they've gleaned. We'll be talking further about the portfolio, including connectivity with the cloud-based offering, trouble-free payments, touching on reference data and standards, identity and mandate management, and providing a summary as well as covering Q&A on the call. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Matt Monaco, to cover about SWIFT.
Thank you, Stacy. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what the corporates are doing on SWIFT, and I want to give you sort of a high-level general overview of the corporates and the services, and then Stacy will go into a little more detail about the products and services. So many of you have heard of SWIFT before. You may not realize that SWIFT is a cooperative. We're a non-for-profit organization. We've been in business for over 40 years. Primarily started as a global network to connect banks' back office applications to each other, as well as a standardization organization. So not only do we provide a global network, but all of the standardization in terms of the messages between the various banks. This facilitates back office integration, implementation, which, of course, the banks do need. And more recently, as we're getting corporates onto the SWIFT network, standardization is also a very important key component to the integration to your back office application and communication with your banks. You may also see on the bottom of the screen, we do have over 10,000 entities on SWIFT. That's banks, corporates, many FIs in the securities marketplace, as well as insurance companies and market infrastructures. So we do have a breadth of clients around the world. And as you also can see on the bottom, we have around 20 million messages a day. So you can imagine the amount of money that goes through the SWIFT network. We have to be a highly reliable network and highly secure. And naturally, that is what SWIFT brings to the table. Next slide. So SWIFT for corporates, and you're all here to hear about what we're bringing to the table in terms of corporate adoption of SWIFT. As I mentioned, primarily we were in business for banks, but as corporates are starting to get onto the SWIFT network, or have since 2002, we are primarily started as an FX, providing FX confirmations via the SWIFT network, and has quickly expanded to other areas, such as payments, cash management, I said foreign exchange, multi-asset class matching. SWIFT does have something called Accord, which matches messages. So if you have FX confirmations or trade messages it can be matched in the network itself. You may also know SWIFT in terms of trade for letters of credit or BPO. There we do supply not only the messages and standardization, but of course the network for you to send those messages or receive from your banking partners. And that all ties into supply chain finance. And again, SWIFT being in the middle of market infrastructures in the financial industry, we're definitely tied into regulation and providing information such as a SWIFT reference or BIC IBAN directories and information that can be integrated into your back office application like SAP. We're also providing additional services. We'll talk a little bit about e-statements and what that is. There's a lot of attraction to some of the new services that SWIFT has. Trouble-free payments and SEPA, so we've built out the whole slide now. And I talked a little bit about reference data, very interesting topic or service that SWIFT is now providing. It does have full integration into your SAP system as well as Oracle and some of the other back office applications. It does bring you to SEPA compliance. It will allow you to view information. We'll go into a little more detail about that. Identity mandate management. Again, SWIFT being a secure network, we also provide security around not only our network, but also at a token level. And Stacey's going to go into something called the RES key and where we stand on the whole security component of that. And then I mentioned supply chain finance. Again, SWIFT being in the middle of standardization for BPO as well as our existing message set for letters of credit. Next slide. So this slide just sort of highlights some of the large organizations that we have on our SWIFT network. And again, we have over 1,000 corporations. Now, when you look at SWIFT and say, well, 1,000 corporations, that's not that many. If you take a look at the underlying amount of corporates, so divisions, subdivisions, we probably have more in the range of 25 to 30,000 entities on the SWIFT network. So, for example, if you take GE, they may have somewhere in the range of 200 to 300 entities on all communicating via the SWIFT network. So we count it as one, but there's certainly much more than that. This slide is quite interesting. Many corporates that I talk to want to know, is SWIFT the right, are we the right size for SWIFT? And I think this slide sort of talks to that. If you take a look at the annual turnover of corporates on the SWIFT network, you'll see that we have a range of client sizes. Whether you're, under $1 billion or over $1 billion, it's pretty much even. And when we talk about corporate treasury, regardless of you're a big organization or small, it really has to do with how many banking partners you have, what are your difficulties around integrating that with your back office application, and then not necessarily the size of your organization. And let's face it, cash management is cash management. Everyone wants to know their positions, and SWIFT facilitates that network that allows you to tie into all of your banking partners to pull in that information. And then on the right-hand side, again, talk about the number of banking partners. So again, the majority of our corporates on SWIFT, 55%, have 1 to 5 banking partners. So if you take a look at that, you say, well, okay, if I only have one bank, why would I get onto SWIFT? And there's multiple reasons, and certainly we're not going to go into detail here, but you certainly can call your SWIFT rep or myself, and we can go into the value proposition regardless of the number of banking partners that you may have. So secure financial connectivity. So you have 1,000 corporates on the SWIFT network. Why are corporates looking at SWIFT? So what has really happened since 2002? Well, prior to SWIFT allowing corporates to connect to the SWIFT network, you basically had what's outlined here on this particular slide. Lack of visibility to cash. And that was primarily driven from multiple proprietary systems. You had people in Treasury going out to web portals to pull that information, or the lack of information being pushed to corporate treasury. I've heard of instances where clients are getting Excel spreadsheets on every 2 months. So how do you manage your cash when you don't know how much you have in an account? Also, the high integration cost. So again, it was very labor intensive. You're pulling in information versus being pushed to you. The lack of integration into back office applications, proprietary systems, security, various methods of security for each banking partner. Most organizations are dealing with multiple dongles, ways of signing in. So that was the past. And what corporates want is a single solution to tie into all of their their banking partners. So if you take a look at this slide, it really cleans up that spaghetti, that proprietary connections that you've had in the past with a single connection through the SWIFT network that connects into all of your banking partners, regardless of where they are in the world. So it's not only an international way of connecting to your banking partners, but also domestically. So again, whether it's domestic or international, you have full connectivity to all of your banks through a single secure network. We are the banking backbone. We do provide all of the infrastructure and security for the banks. And you, as a corporation, will be getting onto that same exact network with all the security around it. It does clean up your all those proprietary connections that you may have. Usually we see a drastic cost savings for the corporate by eliminating all of the proprietary connections, as well as the FTE effort in terms of maintaining DR and everything that goes around it. In addition, you are provided with standardization in terms of your messages. So if you're looking at the bank, whether it's domestic or international, an MT940, MT942, which is a report that you can receive end of day or intraday, is consistent throughout all of your banking partners. So that information is easily integrated into your back office application. So the secure financial connectivity, SWIFT. So what it brings to the table is improved control and visibility. So again, the information is pushed to you. It goes straight into your back office application. There's no need to have manual uploading of information and then perhaps rekeying it into a back office application. The flow of information goes from your bank, pushed to you through your connectivity of SWIFT into your back office application, regardless of the type. Again, utilizing a legal entity identification. Every entity on SWIFT has a identification. Your information is highly secure and sent to only you, and it is pushed to you on the SWIFT network. Your connectivity becomes completely transparent. As a corporate within Treasury, you simply log into your back office application, and that information will be there as soon as the banks push it to you. So that's all happens in a matter of seconds. And again, standardizing bank communication, single bank, multi-bank channel. You have a single connection to all of your banks. It definitely cleans up your current connectivity model if you're not on SWIFT already. And everything is digitized and automated. Your interface will connect directly to your back office application and communicate with complete automation and no manual effort. Accelerating decisions, again, from the corporate treasury point of view, and Brian will go into it in more detail, but that visibility means everything. So that information pushed to you, whether it's end of day, intraday, or ad hoc throughout the day, the information is updated into that back office application. So from a treasurer's perspective, you have the greatest amount of visibility that you perhaps could possibly get. So connectivity. So in terms of the SWIFT network, there is a requirement to have an interface that ties you into the SWIFT backbone. And SWIFT has primarily two options. One is direct infrastructure, where you actually will have a server on-premise. That server is called SWIFT Alliance Access. It has multiple ways of connecting into your back office application or multiple back office applications. I have corporates on the SWIFT network that have 100 different back office ERP and TMS systems. They're all managed through a single connection, one SAA on-premise. So that is an option if you'd like to have a server, the software, all dedicated within your facility, much like Viacom has today, that will communicate with all of your back office applications, and you are in complete control of your infrastructure. We also have a number of options in terms of manipulating the the messages. So messages coming in through various, let's say, non-standard can be converted for your back office application. Let's say you're running SAP or Oracle. The SAA does have the ability to do the manipulation of those messages. So there's no need to actually have a back office application that can only read Swift. So the manipulation is very possible. The second option is Alliance Lite 2. This is our cloud-based solution. It's been available since October of last year. Its underlying platform is Swift Alliance Access. It's the same application. It's been around since 1992. It's the application the majority of our banks and institutions on Swift use and have used. So there's nothing new necessarily about the application itself. What is new is that we provide it now in a cloud-based solution. So as a corporate, you do not need to manage any software yourself. Swift maintains the application. We do any kind of changes for you on behalf of your organization. If you have changes in your back office application, you simply call Swift and we make those changes happen. So it's a near zero footprint in terms of connectivity. So when we talk about Alliance Lite 2 in the cloud, certainly the cloud solution does provide you with the ability to tie into multiple back office applications. So within your organization, if it's cash management, treasury trade, FX confirmations, that's all capable. It's all possible to have via the Alliance Lite 2. It does have a complete solution set. All the messages are available to you, and there's no restriction in terms of the number of back office applications that you may have tied into this cloud solution. So again, there's no restriction, no surprises. This is the application that's been running our network for over 20 years. It is very easy to use. We do all of the manipulation and setup for you. And there's simply an auto client and a certificate on your side. It's that simple. And that all ties into your back office application. And any of the message sets from payments to reporting, FX, to trade are all available on Alliance Lite 2, so there is no restriction. Next slide. So solutions. And Stacey's going to go into a little more detail, but I just want to highlight some of the solutions that we're going to be talking about. And certainly payments, cash management, those are things you've probably already heard of in terms of corporates coming onto the Swift network. Again, I mentioned foreign exchange. And you can take a look on the right-hand side, the message sets that are associated with those particular business areas. Also take note that we, as a standards organization, continue to build out our ISO 20022 message sets. So you do have the option of the standard MT, for example, on the first one, the MT 101 payment instruction, as well as the equivalent ISO 20022 messages. And we do see quite a bit of a demand on the corporate front to use those ISO messages, which are XML. And ultimately, that is the future, I believe, of messaging for Swift will be all XML. But for the meantime, you do have a choice of either the MT or the MX, which is the XML ISO 20022 messages. And we have those message sets in pretty much all the categories of business areas. And then we're going to talk a little bit about e-statements, how that comes in. You also will see something called File Act. And just briefly, File Act is the ability to send and receive any type of message on the Swift network. We realize there are messages that are outside of the Swift standard, but as a corporate, you do not have to necessarily integrate all of the Swift standards. You can use File Act to send and receive those types of messages. And then Stacey's going to talk a little bit about EBAM. That is a hot topic for every corporate I talk to. They want to know when can I have it? So again, I think there's a lot of future in that EVM applications that we're providing, as well as Swift's future with the product set and the messages. And I believe over to Stacy.
Thanks, Matt. We're going to first talk a little bit about the flows when a corporate is evaluating Swift and how they would potentially phase beyond connectivity. Matt touched on at a high level some of the solutions within our portfolio, and most corporates, when they look to onboard with Swift, really look to do payments, get visibility to cash, and now have really expanded beyond those two areas for other value-added services and needs. This particular slide shows the workflow of a FIN message, or an MT-101, which is a real-time request for transfer. It also shows the ability to send a file of transactions that may be an integrated payables file. It may have ISO 20022 transactions. It may be in a proprietary format. As Matt just mentioned, FileAct can support any format. So over the Swift network, you have the guaranteed delivery, you have the certainty, reliability, and trust, and the resiliency of our network, which is so important in this day and age. So here, this particular workflow shows payments. It shows supporting not only Swift standards, but the ability to support proprietary standards, and do that for individual payments that need guaranteed confirmation, or for bulk payments that may support other vendor flows, tax payments, payroll, or other low-value type transactions. Especially since 2008, and anybody working in corporate cash management, knowing how much cash you have, whether you're in a net borrower position or the information that you may have at headquarters or within your shared service centers, is really paramount. So having the information, whether it be previous day or current day detail, within your organization to make decisions in a timely manner is critical to the success of every organization. This particular slide demonstrates reporting flows that can not only be supported by Swift message standards, but also by proprietary formats, whether you're leveraging BAI2, BTRS, the new bank balance transaction reporting standard, or ISO 20022 under the CAMT message set. Whatever your need is, whether you're centralized or decentralized, we have the reporting capabilities within our standards, as well as the secure communication channel for corporates and banks to work together to have an automated flow, whether it be for day-to-day cash management or liquidity needs. Matt touched on at the beginning of the call the portfolio of solutions that we have to offer. And one area of focus for corporates is around treasury, commodities, matching, and the ability to do this in an automated fashion. Organizations are definitely trying to minimize paper and take manual intervention out of tasks, and anywhere automated matching capabilities can be brought to the fore is really relevant and a priority for corporates. So our Accord solution is something that has been available through Swift. It is a software as a service solution that has a zero footprint at a corporate client and allows for that automation of confirmations between corporates and their counterparties. So stay tuned. This is definitely something that we continue to see as more of a priority with corporates, not only leveraging Swift for payments and information reporting flows, but also for securities and other areas of the business. And here it just showed some of the automation on the slide of the actual match confirmations that would occur through Accord over the cloud. Trade is something that is very relevant in communities as organizations are trying to find more ways to electronify the paper-based process. This year has definitely been a big year in trade, especially with the work that Swift has done with the ICC, focusing on the bank payment obligation. And on this call today, we're going to be focusing on the MT700 series, or the message set that can automate letters of credit, standby LCs, and demand guarantees. And this is just demonstrating another way to leverage the SWIFT network to automate communications within the enterprise for trade and supply chain finance. Whether you're looking to leverage SWIFT standards and the message sets that we have in our FIN messaging using ISO 20022 or proprietary messages that you may have for supply chain finance, it can be supported either through the FIN messaging or through FILACT. It's something to consider as you're evaluating your trade supply chain finance requirements and your SWIFT connectivity. The team is here to help, working in concert with your technology partners and your banks to evaluate whether these solutions make sense to change what you're doing today to a more efficient process for tomorrow. One of the newer use cases for FILACT is a service offering called e-statements. It's supported under the SCORE framework, so the standard corporate operating environment, and it's something leveraging FILACT, that secure communication channel, for additional flows within a corporate enterprise. This particular slide shows the ability to automate fiscal period end statements over FILACT very simply over the SWIFT network, showing you other use cases to leverage SWIFT connectivity for corporate to bank communications. And this is another great way to automate a process today that's very paper-based, ridden with storage costs, as well as mailing and transport, and something that, once again, can be done in a secure communications manner over the SWIFT network between counterparties. I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who's now going to share the case study and the Viacom perspective on SWIFT for Corporate.
Thank you, Stacy and Matt. As Stacy and Matt said, my name is Brian Harrison. I'm the Treasury Manager at Viacom. We're going to talk today about the Viacom story and how we ended up choosing SWIFT as a centerpiece of our cash management infrastructure. We're going to go through the decision-making process for joining SWIFT and the added benefits that we've seen over the past year since implementing SWIFT globally. As you can see on your screen, this is really a picture of our current state of cash management, and it's clear that SWIFT sits directly in the center of it. About a year ago, this picture looked a lot different, and I'm not very sure if we would even be able to fit it onto one screen, and it's probably similar to some of your Treasury setups where we have multiple FTP interfaces. We'd have arrows and boxes in many different directions. That takes us to our next slide. Let's first talk about where we were, and then we'll come full circle to where we currently are in our infrastructure. Our pre-SWIFT treasury landscape, similar to many other big treasuries, we're scattered across many different countries with many different banks and about 675 bank accounts. Our balance reporting and funds transfer really were coming from manually downloading from many different banking portals. And as Stacy and Matt said, many different spreadsheets being passed around via email from different areas of the company and compiling into one big data cache position. We had many different FTP connections set up with our various different ERP systems, which are costly, and a lot of work goes into administering them and documenting them and DR preparation. We had very big struggles. And as a corporate treasury group, we needed to come up with a decision on a solution to streamline our processes and make real-time decision-making available so that way we can answer management's questions on any ad hoc questions. We really needed to become a more strategic treasury group rather than being manually driven and spending most of our time coming up with our position. We need to come up with a way that we can come in the morning and from the start of the day be strategic on our cash and make well-informed decisions.
Does anybody miss receiving those spreadsheets?
No. I don't think anybody misses sending them or creating them. we've become much more efficient in our operations since joining SWIFT, to say the least.
Excellent.
The next slide, we're going to take you through what our decision was. What we had to do is we had to come up with a way that our entire company can use one system of communication, and also be able to use that system for all cash management, balance reporting, and all treasury functions. So we decided to implement the treasury management system. Once making that decision, we needed to figure out a way, now that we have our system, how we can get the information into our system. And I believe after a quick discussion, it became crystal clear that we needed to reach out to SWIFT and learn more about implementing SWIFT in conjunction with our treasury management system. Why SWIFT? Global visibility of cash. We needed a way that we can get all of our statements, prior day statements or current day statements, into one place, in one depository, so that way we can become strategic treasury center rather than a very manual organization. Network reliability. SWIFT speaks for itself. SWIFT is always available. It's reliable. It's trustworthy. We needed something that we can sell our divisions on, that this was the most appropriate solution for a company globally. Security. We had increased control. One direct connection with all of our banking partners as opposed to multiple FTP connections. It seemed like a very easy win for the company and a big sell to our audit department that manages all of our operations and processes. It's risk management. We really were able to mitigate our risks through SWIFT by having the security of sending the statements through one channel managed by our IT department and our SWIFT team internally. Compliance. When walking into a room with our compliance team, you would see the wide smiles when we show the different controls put in place, and when we actually show where we were to where we're going, they were quite pleased with what we are proposing and implementing. And we also want to set ourselves up for new initiatives. Like every other corporate, one of the biggest initiatives coming up, which Stacy mentioned before, is EBAM. We want to put ourselves in a position that we will be ready to implement EBAM as soon as we were able to. Next slide. Coming full circle now, we can discuss our current infrastructure. As I said before, SWIFT sits directly in the center of everything we do today in Treasury. All payments, all reporting files are delivered directly through SWIFT to or from our IT2 system, our SAP system. We use the way we've implemented it. We have received one set of prior day statements and reporting statements that we share company-wide. We have a single file that we use through all of our different internal systems, which really allows us to get global cash optimization and liquidity management. We are also using SWIFT to automate a lot of our current payment processes. Not only are we able to use the electronic bank statements that we're pulling into our ERP systems to auto-post all of our account entries, we're also able to implement a real efficient straight-through processing payment processing center. We've taken the post that all payments should be made straight through processing through our ERP systems and using our treasury system as more urgent wire payment system. So we're really able to really maximize our straight through processing, which makes everybody within the company happy because there's less risk of failure. You have the payments in with one system and it's going directly to our banking partners through SWIFT. One of the biggest things that we were able to implement in addition to SWIFT in general is we are able to sit with our main banking partners, and we now have a harmonized ISO 20022 version 3 bank payment file. What that means is we can go to our ERP teams and we have the basis of where we can start with all of our major banks and set up payment files around the world. That's really increased our ability to speed up implementations, which we're currently moving through as an organization. And it's really been beneficial in speaking with our SAP teams that it's a time saver on our behalf. And using FileAct to transmit that to those payment files to our banks really benefit us as a whole company. Some things we're looking to do in the future to enhance this project even further along is we're actually in the process of implementing Swift Accord for our FX confirmation process. A lot of as you'll go through this list, many of the solutions that Stacy and Matt discussed earlier, we have either implemented or in the process of looking into so we can implement. Our real goal is to become a state-of-the-art treasury group and taking advantage of all these different products that are available to us. As I just mentioned, Swift Accord is our next project that we're currently working on, so that way we can automatically confirm our FX trades that we commit with our different banking partners, so that way we can automate yet another manual process. Many treasuries, if they're not using some of the other matching tools that are out there, really confirmations are done via phone, fax, email, and it's not really a way of moving forward, and we really are pushing to implement Swift Accord. E-statements, this is something that most recently came to our attention, and we're looking to do this during next fiscal year. It's one last piece to make our treasury model work. Currently, the e-statements are either only available through those different web portals that we mentioned before, but if we have the ability to receive them through Swift, we can get rid of as many different manual processes. I was actually speaking to a colleague overseas, and once a month, it's a full day task of downloading the bank statements, and if we can get that time back and allow them to be more strategic, that's something that benefits not only us at the corporate level, but the local teams as well. And I believe EBAM speaks for itself. We've been hearing a lot about EBAM over the past couple of years, and it's something that we're very interested in implementing once available. We've made some great strides with getting all of our data clean, so that way we're in a position to implement EBAM when we're ready to. I think that the moral of our story is Swift has really we've really come a long way over the last year, and it's really changed our day-to-day lives in Treasury phenomenally. We now can come in, and by 8:30 in the morning, we can give our treasurer our cash position before we even do anything. We show up and we can print out a report, and we have where we started, all the transactions that happened throughout the night, any issues. We can do any type of analysis that our treasurer and other senior management ask for on an ad hoc basis. Whereas in the past, it may take half a day to just get the cash position completed, and the rest of the day to complete the analysis.
Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate your insight. Everybody's always looking to hear voice of the client, and especially corporates who are currently embarking on their Swift project or evaluating. I think some key points that you made around mitigating risk and, obviously leveraging automation to the fullest through your Treasury Workstation and ERP system really, deserves applause all around. So thank you so much for sharing the insight, and I know that you frequently talk to your corporate peers about your experience, and that's greatly appreciated. We're just going to take a few moments to touch on some of the other solutions that are of priority when talking to our corporate clients, especially getting ready for things like SEPA compliance and organizations that are grappling with how to keep payments data up to date and accurate, especially since when payments become exceptions or have to be repaired, they can definitely become costly. So to the end of Swift providing efficient, reliable, and secure solutions, an area that organizations are often surprised that we support is reference data. This is an area that we support not only Swift corporates, but corporates that aren't connected to Swift. So regardless of what your challenges may be, whether it be complying with SEPA and trying to meet that deadline from an operational perspective, whether you're putting in a new system and you're analyzing the way you make payments today and you need accurate and up-to-date information that's flexible to integrate, whether it be with your SAP system, like Matt mentioned earlier, or a treasury workstation, this solution really is robust and comprehensive. It has multiple channels to access the data, whether you have a resource who needs to do exception work and manually look up information online, or whether you want a fully automated process with information integrated into your technology solutions. We have the tools available through our SWIFT reference data product set. And there are different bundles dependent upon what your requirements are, whether you need BIC information, whether you need correspondent details, whether you're looking to replace the BICs with IBANs for SEPA. This is one area that we can assist with, and I know quite a lot of dialogue is happening in the corporate segment in this space, especially as organizations are trying to move completely to automation.
Yeah, and with the SEPA compliance being mandatory with beginning of February next year, certainly seeing a lot of corporates coming to us specifically for reference data. And when we take a look at, competing products in the market, we do come at, I would say, very competitively priced, extremely competitive actually. So again, very hot topic.
Go ahead,
and if I can interject, we actually do subscribe to the reference data pack that Stacy and Matt were referring to. We have it built into our ERP systems as a BIC validation tool, and we've also used it for cleaning up some of our vendor data. It's very important to become SEPA compliant. There's many steps that need to for our corporates to go through, and using this product was a quick and easy way for us to streamline that process. That way we can update all of our vendor data and make sure our ERPs are ready for all the changes that are going to be coming quickly early next year.
And I think you're making a great point, because to do that manually and to have somebody doing those lookups manually, especially for organizations that have large vendor master files or have entities that need to comply to SEPA, definitely having automated solutions that have up-to-date information that gets frequently updated with a consolidated source of data. And I think why we are thriving in this space is because of all the different endpoints that we're collecting data from, and the frequency of updates that we provide, as well as the multiple channels available for corporates of all sizes. We definitely see, when it comes to SEPA, not only interest in the reference data, but understanding and analysis of the standards behind it. Are you compliant with ISO 20022 and the message sets required for SEPA? If not, we have standards resources available to work with you and your teams to help you with that assessment if you haven't already started. And if you have started and you have questions that you want answered and resources to speak to, we're here to help, and we work very closely with the banks and the vendors in the market to ensure that the standards can be initiated and consumed, and not only is the reference data supported, but all the standards and the mandate management required around SEPA. Being that SWIFT is a standards organization, one thing that's very important is having tools available to efficiently update and maintain standards. One of the solutions that we have available is called My Standards. Several financial institutions have subscribed to the solution to be able to publish their own versions of the standards, their own market practice. And this is a web-based platform that is collaborative, that allows for organizations to efficiently handle standards updates, new implementations, any format changes, as well as documentation when it comes to standards maintenance and management. And definitely corporates, as they embark on the SWIFT journey and work with their banking partners, they want to make sure that they understand the formats and standards available by financial institution in particular regions. Common Global Implementation is a working group focused on supporting ISO 20022 messages in the payments domain. There are currently 4 work groups focusing on the standards, consistent market practices as well as implementation guidelines when it comes to the credit transfer, information reporting, the CAMT messages, direct debit, and a new working group which just got kicked off around electronic bank account management, a topic that's definitely exciting in the market and that everybody is interested in and waiting for further momentum. There are a lot of different organizations who are part of CGI. It's made up of banks, corporates, vendors, and other industry working groups collaborating to really make standardization more efficient. And sometimes what I joke about is taking the S off of standards. So there's a more consistent approach, whether it be for payments, information reporting, and now for electronic bank account management, which is definitely picking up steam.
I just wanted to mention something. So with EBAM, what I'm hearing in the market, and some rumors that there's no standardization quite yet around EBAM. Wondering how those rumors started.
I don't know. The game telephone is always really interesting, and I find now with technology, rumors spread even faster and the stories get more colorful. Electronic bank account management, there are a set of standards under the ISO 20022 umbrella. There are 15 messages. Actually, version 2 was just approved by the ISO organization earlier this year, in May to be exact. There are over 30 organizations that have joined the EBAM working group under CGI focused on implementing those standards. And there are banks and corporates going live and several organizations who are focused on implementing EBAM. And I think like any new innovation, you have some organizations who are jumping in and going out to buy, and you have others that are waiting and seeing. Years ago, people thought when cell phones were being carried in a little pocketbook and were a brick that nobody would use them. Now people have sometimes 2 cell phones, 2 iPads, and a laptop when you go to a conference.
Indeed.
So definitely there are EBAM standards. Some organizations are using them over SWIFT. Some are using them over proprietary channels. But like any new format and new initiative, there are also some proprietary standards that are out there, or proprietary messages, I should say. The industry is excited about EBAM because the messages are quite robust. They focus on the opening, maintenance, and closing of accounts. And there is a lot of interest in leveraging these ISO messages to be implemented with banks and corporates. So stay tuned. There is a lot of activity in the space. And for those of you that may not be part of CGI and are evaluating or implementing ISO 20022 messages in these areas, I encourage you to get involved.
Thanks.
SWIFT being an organization founded on security, reliability, and trust, we always had company-level security, understanding what each organization was communicating with one another. And in this day and age, as organizations are grappling with internal and external fraud, it's important to know not only what organization is doing something, but who within that organization is actually instructing a transaction or entitling a specific activity. The next couple of slides are going to go into some tools available for identity and mandate management. A 3S key, Swift Secure Signature Key, as the acronym stands, is available for authentication as well as signing of transactions and files. So authentication may be logging into a various application, whether it be in-house or within a banking partner or in the cloud. This particular slide actually shows the mandate management process. It shows the ability for corporate signatories down to a specific individual that may be entitled or authorized for various treasury payments at certain thresholds. These organizations can set that up within their organization, send it either over the SWIFT network, the internet, or some proprietary channel, because SWIFT Secure Signature Key can be used on and off the SWIFT network for SWIFT and non-SWIFT transactions, and then sent to the bank for the bank then to do the checking of the information. Much like organizations have enjoyed over bank portals, organizations are also looking for that same level of comfort through communication channels and transmission protocols. So this is one example of 3S Key being used for user entitlements and approvals in a workflow across different channels.
I guess what we don't see here is Rose Smith's smile on her face, because now she has one dongle to carry around versus 30, right?
Absolutely. I think Rose is really happy. Next time we'll make her with a smiley face, because you're correct.
Yes,
so before 3S Key is the world of multiple dongles that Brian and the Viacom team ran from. Now the world with one dongle or one particular token for just, those few positive pay exceptions they have to do, because checks haven't died yet.
I think a lot of corporates would be happy to get rid of that keychain full of different bank tokens that we used to have ourselves at Viacom.
And I always liken, 3S Key, kind of the peanut butter to the EBAM jelly, because 3S Key can be used to sign EBAM transactions, and something that we see as a high priority within corporates. Today, a lot of the use cases for entitlements and personal approvals implemented with 3S Key around payments, and definitely are being implemented with EBAM as those initiatives are now going live as well. So here is actually the multiple ways to log in to a various application, and kind of the before 3S Key, or the challenges that corporate treasurer may face. On this slide, it's actually a picture of one of our corporate treasurer's desks showing all the different security mechanisms to log into the various applications. Even within one financial institution or one provider, there may be multiple ways to access and log in for authorization. Two-factor authentication is definitely a baseline requirement here in the U.S., and we even see in some organizations wanting, more belts and suspenders to the process. So this also is demonstrating whether it's Swift network, cloud-based solutions, the internet, or some other process, the ability to leverage this technology. So whether it's logging into a Treasury workstation in-house, whether it be logging into a bank application or some other FX portal, the challenges definitely get magnified. This particular slide shows that happy user, even though we can't see her smile, Matt, having one particular token to log into now all the different assets available, whether it be a Swift technology, a bank portal, or an in-house Treasury workstation. And we definitely see interest from corporates of all sizes to use 3S Key, and this is something that is mostly used actually by non-Swift users that are signing payment files, that are logging into various applications in-house and externally. So stay tuned, because there are over 30 banks subscribed globally, and something that we continue to see momentum, especially as organizations onboard with new services like electronic bank account management, and especially as organizations are being tasked to comply with further risks and further audits to have controls down to the individual level. Well, I think that it's been a great call today, having Brian share the insight into a corporate use case, Matt sharing where the program has come from the inception. Swift, we are 40 years old, and we continue to help the industry. Corporates in particular is an exciting space. The benefits, definitely go beyond secure connectivity. We remain at the fore working with corporates, whether they're evaluating solutions to provide better visibility to cash, to optimize working capital, and as organizations continue to look to reduce risk and costs.
Thank you, Stacy. Brian?
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, the panel, so much for presenting, and we do have a few questions that have come in for you. I'll group some of them together in the interest of time, but some of the first questions were about SEPA. Can you explain more about that? And also, an individual has a question stating that they've been told the banks will no longer accept urgent euro-denominated payments in the MT format within the area. Can you confirm if this is true, And if it is true, what is Swift's solution for this issue?
So for those of you that may not be familiar with SEPA, it's the Single Euro Payments Arena. There is a deadline for those of you that make payments in the Eurozone by February 1st, 2014. One of the requirements is to initiate payments in an ISO 20022 format for credit transfers and direct debits. SWIFT, as a standards organization, we have resources that can help you evaluate the current standards you may be using, and we have integration services to help you transform the payments into ISO 20022 or help you work with your banking partner and technology vendors on a solution that makes sense to be able to initiate the proper formats, understand the mandate management piece, as well as the updates to include the IBAN information required now to make the payments. So we do have a team that does business and technical assessments for SEPA and work very closely with banking partners to ensure that corporates can make the deadlines for SEPA.
Great. Another question that was posed is, what is the turnaround time for changes on the Alliance Lite 2?
So in terms of turnaround times and changes to the system itself, one of the things that SWIFT has instituted within Alliance Lite 2 is something called peace of mind. So within every new corporate that connects via the Alliance Lite 2, there is a dedicated staff to make changes on the fly for you. Even changes that are required for your back office application, for example, any kind of routing changes to specific directories within your back office application, or adding new users, things of that nature will be handled by SWIFT. It does have to be slightly scheduled, but can happen within the same day, and most often it does.
Wonderful. We also have a question specifically about Viacom, and the question is, how long did it take for Viacom to implement SWIFT, and how large was that team?
The time it took, we started the actual project maybe a year and a half ago. We're a very small treasury team. I think there's a total of 12 of us in the entire group, including management. So it was a very hands-on approach. We actually utilized the SWIFT consulting services that SWIFT offers us to bring us up to date with different SWIFT technologies, which was very beneficial for us, so that way we could jump right into it with them and reach out to our banks and work with each bank individually with rolling and implementing SWIFT. The biggest task from a corporate is making sure you have the appropriate team within your different banks that you deal with, and it really relies on the different resources you have. We decided to take SWIFT in-house and with direct connectivity, and that was just a pure decision from our senior management, since we had the IT resources available and capable of monitoring that. It really depends on each case is different, but I would say for us it was about a year and a half project.
That includes your back office implementation.
That includes a back office implementation. If you're talking just cash management, it is a lot quicker. If you're talking just reporting and payments, that is pretty straightforward when dealing with your banks. But our complete implementation thus far has been about a year and a half to 2 year project, ongoing, because we're always looking to enhance it. But it's completely managed from our corporate treasury team located in New York.
Wonderful. We have a few quick minutes left in the interest of time. So, Stacy, are there any other questions you see that should be addressed right now?
Sure. One of the questions that came up was what Treasury Workstation Viacom is using.
We implemented IT2 as a treasury system.
And another question that came up was whether SWIFT is available for Latin America. And yes, SWIFT is available for Latin America. The team here covers the Americas, inclusive of Canada and Latin America. We do have offices around the world, and we support members in over 210 countries. So we are quite expansive within our organization.
And just to add to that, we do use SWIFT within that region as well. And we've gotten some great feedback from our local teams. We communicate and send files back and forth from our ERP systems all across LATAM. So it's definitely available within that region.
Wonderful. And just a final question before we go. Will the participants be receiving a copy of this presentation, or will they just be getting the recording?
We will definitely be providing a copy of the presentation for the participants, and we appreciate the active engagement through the call today and the support of GT News for this webinar. And thank you to my co-presenters. I think that this was a great discussion, and look forward to continuing the dialogue with those who participated and are looking for more information.
Yeah, certainly my information is on the bottom of the last page, so certainly feel free to reach out to me.
And if you have any questions from a corporate standpoint, you can always reach out to me as well, and we'll make sure that you get my contact details, and we're happy to share our story.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for participating today, and thank you for the participants for calling in. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.